we inch closer and closer to the next NFL season, 2025-2026, in just about a week, and that is when free agency opens up. We'll talk trades, we'll talk draft, all the fun stuff. It's going to get wild, and we hope that Elliott Wolf is hunkered down with Mike Vrabel, and they are thumbing through free agency and making sure that they have all their ducks in a row when free agency opens up, and they can execute their plans flawlessly, hopefully landing on plan A. If not, they have other concession plans in place. But the question is this one person going to be on that list? Who the heck knows? Let's jump into it. You guys know my name is Aaron on the daily, pushing out Patriots content to people like you who can't get enough. So do me a favor, three quick things. Subscribe. Easy, takes 2 seconds. Hit the like button, helps my analytics. It's perfect. Thank you. And then as well, comment below. So first and foremost, Davante Adams has been released. Now, off the bat, here's my first question. Do you want Davante Adams on the New England Patriots? Davante Adams played most of his career with the Packers with Aaron Rodgers, and then he ended up going to the Raiders. From the Raiders, that was a whole dumpster fire. He ends up going to the Jets. What an awful trade for the Jets. Just crazy. Jets. My favorite, though, Davante Adams play, it was this, like, I think I've talked about this before, but it was like a reverse throwback by Davante Adams. Aaron Rodgers has it. He throws it back to Davante Adams, and he absolutely gets hammered. And it was like, this is the Jets 2024-2025 season summed up. It was hilarious. It was perfect to a T. But the question off the bat, do you want Davante Adams? Do you think he's going to be too much of a hassle in this rebuild? Is he going to be probably asking for way too much, in my opinion? But when you look at free agency, you do have to give him the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people would argue back in his prime that he was one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best. And so does it warrant looking into bringing him to the Patriots? Would he be worth it? I think yes. I think no. If he comes in, I think he lines himself up to be that number one receiver. But would you rather have him? Would you rather have Kendrick Bourne? Would you rather have the headache of knowing, hey, he might only be here for a year? Is it worth that for the Patriots? My answer is no. I don't think it's worth it. Is it worth looking into? Possibly. But I would think that Davante Adams, personally, I think he's going to try to go where Aaron Rodgers ends up going. So Aaron Rodgers could land with the Tennessee Titans. Heck, he could land with the Raiders. Davante Adams could go back to the Raiders. Who knows? He could land a multitude of places that teams are willing to take a chance on him, much like the Jets did. But when we look at Davante Adams, we know that, again, he's older. Do we want to take on an older guy that potentially could, especially depending on what kind of contract he wants, pay him way too much, maybe guarantee him way too much? Now, if he could take barely anything, sure, willing to take him in. But I don't see that happening unless he's going to play with someone like Aaron Rodgers. But I could be totally wrong. So Davante Adams, in my opinion, is a no-go. What says you? Comment below. You might think you're an idiot for not considering him. I said I'd consider him, but I just don't think in the long run it would be smart. Again, remember, we're trying to rebuild. There's a lot of youth on this team. There's a lot of potential on this team. Bringing in someone like Davante Adams, is that worth it? Again, in my mind, the right price, maybe. But ultimately, I'm leaning no. What do you think? Other free agents, though, that we've talked about, Amari Cooper, that would be interesting. Also, another guy that is older. So I don't know. It's very possible that we see the Patriots try to make a move on one of these guys. I do really like Chris Godwin. He's a guy out of Tampa Bay that I really like, but he's not necessarily that X wide receiver, and I feel like that's the type of guy we're looking for. You do have Kayshon Boutte, who is good on the outside on those vertical routes. We saw that with the first ever touchdown pass from Drake May. It was a beautiful right in the basket play. But the question is, how much is he going to want? Is 25 plus million worth it? And then we got some guys on the lower end. You talk about Palmer, Slayton, Westbrook. Would that be worth it for the Patriots to look into? Or we have the option of looking to the youth currently on the Patriots, or we look to the draft. Now, leading in, continually talking about wide receivers, we look at the other day, Elliott Wolf made a comment, and we talked about it briefly, how he said ultimately the roster was on me, and then he went on to talk a ton about the offensive line, and basically saying every time the quarterback was sacked, he felt like it was on him, it was his responsibility, it was his fault, and yes, it kind of was, but anyways, that's beside the point. Lord knows we don't want Elliott Wolf on the line. That would be a disaster. You never know. Maybe he's just an absolute beast, but I doubt it. But what he said, asked about Jalen Polk, and he basically responded, maybe we put too much on his plate early, which may have stunted his growth. And that being able to make that statement and look forward and basically say, you know, we think there is potential there, but we think we might have thrown him in a little too early, which I would respond to, yes, it's the NFL. There was a lot of rookies that were thrown in there and did well. Now, I guess Jalen Polk, maybe there was mentally, they had talked about that he was having a tough times during the season. So sure, that I'm not saying that doesn't factor in, but at the same time, there are a lot of successful rookies that played out there this year, especially at receiver. And so I hope moving forward, again, Jalen Polk can bring it together. Javon Baker can bring it together, because I do think they could be great assets. But as of right now, for Elliott Wolf, for Mike Vrabel, the question becomes, do we trust our youth that we have on this team? Do we look to free agency, which they will? They're going to do their due diligence and look through that. They would be idiots not to. Or do we go to the draft? So it's this, hey, what are we going to do? And they might do a little mix like, hey, we are going to bring in maybe a less experienced receiver, maybe a lower end receiver in free agency, bring him in, and then hope to get someone. Again, we talked about Iowa State's Higgins. Possibly he's a tried and true ex receiver. He could come in, but it's also possible that they look at Polk and they look at Baker and they say, no, we're gonna give them that opportunity this year. So moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see what they do at this position. Again, Davante Adams, I don't know if I'm sold. You might laugh at me. That's fine. I would rather have someone younger with more years ahead of him that I think can be a leader in that wide receiver room. And I don't know if that's Davante Adams. I could be wrong. You might call me an idiot. I don't really care. But what says you? Comment below. Last but not least, Darius Slay was released by the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Darius Slay is not a young pup. He is not a young pup. He's now 34 years old. He has made the Pro Bowl multiple times. And so he just obviously coming off a Super Bowl, does he have stuff left in the tank? The question is, we look at the Patriots, Christian Gonzalez, cornerback number 1. Cornerback number 2 is Jay Jones. But the question is with him right now is, do they keep him based on, his age and potentially finding someone younger? Again, and he's younger than Slay is. And so I don't know necessarily about this move. Again, it comes down to similar to Davante Adams, what we talked about. If the price is right, yeah, it would. I don't necessarily think it would be bad. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think that bringing a 34-year-old cornerback, I'm assuming there'll be another team out there that way overpays him for a year, maybe 2. And I think that's going to be the same with Davante Adams. And I think ultimately, I don't want the Patriots falling into that trap. Again, I don't think Davante Adams is going to come in or Darius Slay is going to come in and really necessarily wow anybody at the end of their career. Again, I think Davante Adams is going to be probably trying to follow Aaron Rodgers and maybe trying to prove to everyone that, hey, this experiment can work outside of Green Bay with him and Aaron Rodgers, even though they are older in their age. But I could be wrong. Who knows? Again, I just teach high school PE. But comment below. Tell me what you think. Davante Adams, yay or nay? Darius Slay, yay or nay? Of those free agent wide receivers, what's your thought? And then when it comes to the wide receivers, youth, give them a chance, trust in them, look in free agency. Obviously, they will, but hoping to get that wide receiver number 1 in free agency. I think that's what it boils down to. Are you hoping that
one of the youth can turn into that wide receiver one? Are you hoping to find someone in free agency, or are you finding someone in the draft? Of those trifectas right there, what do you think is going to be more realistic for the Patriots? Again, are you trusting Polk and Baker? You trust in free agency, or you trust in the draft? What do you say? Comment below. You guys rock. On the way out, as you're heading out, hit that subscribe button. Mean the world to me. We'll talk later. Peace.